All right, good morning. Good morning. It's almost 10 o'clock on this, is it Tuesday? Yeah, it's Tuesday. Why not? Hope you guys are doing well. I'm Wave Meteorologist Brian Good. Welcome to SnowTALK, Wave Weather Blog here on the Wave Weather app, streaming on Roku, Fire Stick, Apple TV. We're also on social media, of course, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch even, as well as YouTube. So as always, you guys can comment on the social media pages. Those are a little easier for us to see your comments. It kind of groups them all together. Sometimes I see them all. Sometimes I don't until days later because I'm a little slow. But we are trying to pay attention, I promise. There's just a lot of you out there. So I love when you guys are always able to help each other out if I happen to miss a question and be able to help each other out in answering it. So, all right, several things to track. The weather pattern is going to go through a bit of an extreme setup at times here the next few days, more so on temperature than anything. And then we'll get into another discussion of the longer term. Some new data came in. So we'll do that coming up here in just a second. All right, so let's get right to the snowboard. We'll start with that. And as we head into the Wednesday morning sleet issue that I mentioned, I'll show you that still not off the table, but still not a lot of support. So I really don't think it needs to be on the board right now. And we'll watch that because it's literally just tomorrow morning, right? So there's still not a lot of concern yet on that. We get into Thursday morning. That is the Arctic front. It's not just the snow. There's going to be a lot of cold with that, more in a second. But on the snow side of things, a pre-dawn band of snow showers looks to be a little more likely. That could cause some slick spots. A lot of that will likely blow around and therefore not causing huge concern right now, but we'll be watching that. Next Tuesday and Wednesday, I still think it's set up to overall watch. The models I don't think are locked in yet on what the pattern could develop with that system. So we'll talk about that. And obviously it's a cause and effect. Whatever involves with that one will affect the next one, which would be just a few days later as we head toward the following weekend. Okay, so yeah, there's a lot going on the next week and a half here. All right, here's a live look into E-Town, where if you look carefully, and it's hard to see on my monitor, but if you look carefully, there are still some snow flurries flying around. Several schools either delayed or canceled today because of the slick side roads, especially. The city did fine. It's those outlying areas of bridges and overpasses, just the dusting and snow, as we know around here, with falling temperatures, especially into the lower 20s, in some cases teens, is just not a good recipe because it just allows for drivers to go faster than they normally would because they can't always see the snow because it is such a light coating. But even if it did fall, the issue is then it melted because of heavy traffic. But as soon as that traffic started to decrease, then that frozen snow, the little dusting that melted into a puddle, becomes a glaze. And then you end up with a whole other round then of slick road conditions because of the glaze part of it all that happens after the snow melts. So if we didn't have the snowfall, we wouldn't have as much of an issue. But that light coating of snow that melted in some areas, then refroze, that leads to problems. And that's kind of the recipe we kind of go by in general for forecasting problems on the roads, is when you have that kind of a line up there. So I hope everyone's okay, but I know it was a bit tricky there at times last night. All right, today, though, cloud cover is going to be the biggest issue because it's going to take some time to break these clouds up because it is so cold up there, and there's not a lot of stirring up yet. We got a southwest flow that'll ramp in more tonight that'll break all this up. But when does that happen? Well, it'll happen in time to get us some blue sky this afternoon. As always around here, it's a race against the clock. But we're now at our earliest sunset that we can possibly get, and we'll hold on to that for the next 9 days at 5:22 p.m. Eastern. After that, we begin to get a later sunset, slowly but surely. That trend will keep on going all the way into the spring. So the earliest sunset happens now for the next 9 days, and that's because of that, we don't have a lot of time here to even break the clouds up to get a lot of sun to make much of a difference on the thermometer. So these kind of scenarios do lead to very cold days. We're below freezing everywhere. In fact, just barely above 20 in some spots into Indiana. Here's what it looks like from space. It's hard to see, obviously, because the sun just came up not long ago. If you look carefully, you can maybe see a few hints or thinning of the clouds. And it's close to 64, where I'm seeing some of that thinning. So you may briefly see a sun ray or two. But overall, this is a low overcast over the area. And just like you have on a day with drizzle, snow flurries don't always show up very well on the radar. So don't be surprised if a few flakes fly on by. It's literally just that. 1 or 2. None that's going to cause a dusting or anything like that. Wider view shows the system, again, very weak, now moving away from us to the south and east. Now we wait for what's coming next. And for this part of the forecast, it's not anything to do with really precipitation as it is with a gradient that is going to develop. As we head into the next 24 to 36 hours, we're going to get a nice southwest flow that's going to be moving rapidly into the Ohio Valley. We're going to get another trough that is digging in. It's the Arctic front that is up here into Canada. You can see the snow with it behind the banner where it says right now at the top of the screen. That is where the Arctic front is. That will be moving down. It does a squeeze play right into the Ohio River Valley. And the gradient of the two pressures will allow for strong winds that could easily exceed 40 miles per hour in a few cases as we get into your Wednesday and even early on Thursday. Now, that's going to put us not only close to wind advisory level, but even to our alert day status for strong winds. So if you have your holiday decor, make sure it is in good place. And I probably, from Wednesday into Thursday morning, I would not even do the inflatables as they will be really tested. And if you got them anchored down with that tether, it really pulls, the tether will pull on the actual inflatable itself, on the seam of it. It can rip it with strong winds. So just be careful with that. If anything, sometimes it's easier for them to kind of tumble over to the side instead of getting them to where they don't move at all and have to brace that wind. They do tend to rip a little easier that way. So to take that stress away, you may just not want to do them at all, just to make sure everything's good on your holiday decor. But again, strong winds for Wednesday night, early Thursday, and then calming down after that. Again, it's not something you can really display right now, but I'll show you some of the numbers coming up. Let's go through Futurecast. It's got 11 o'clock this morning, which is in an hour. The clouds already have broken up across Indiana, West Kentucky, and beautiful sunshine. Well, we know that's not the case. Right now, they're running behind schedule, so you got to keep that in mind. So the numbers today of getting up to 34, we'll see. We only need here in Louisville, especially just about 2 hours, and we could probably get to the freezing mark at least, and maybe a hair above it. But the rest of the area, very unlikely for that to happen. So a sub-freezing day is likely for a lot of you that are watching right now. We get into tomorrow morning. Now, this is where we get the overrunning scenario. Remember, the warm air flies over the heavier, lazy, cold air and flies. And you can see the little angle almost looks like an arrow telling you exactly where that warm push is going to be. And as that happens, there's a batch of clouds. But so far, we're not getting a lot of moisture. It's getting able to fly out of this system at all, now these clouds, for the very early Wednesday morning hours. If we were to see that trend develop, it would be a combination of sleet or freezing drizzle that could develop briefly, especially for Indiana and closer to Cincinnati. I don't see it right now of an issue for closer to the Ohio River or Kentucky. I think it's going to be roughly in this zone here, just north of us in the northern counties. So if you're in Jackson, Jennings, and to maybe even Lawrence County, just be aware. I'd even throw Carroll and Trimble in there as well, to be mindful that there could be a little bit of light freezing drizzle that may try to form in that warm flow. It would only last an hour or two, and you're going to keep going above freezing. It's not like you're going to stay frozen all day, and there were issues that would stay all day. It's just for that moment that it moves on by. So if you sleep in tomorrow, you won't even know what happened. No doubt, again, the wind will be around, warmer. Get the shorts out. Hello, mid-40s as we head into the afternoon on Wednesday, maybe upper 40s, possible. But again, with a lot of wind, Now we get into the Arctic front. It will begin to slide down to Indianapolis by the time we get to the 11 o'clock news for tomorrow night. And notice what's happening as Arctic fronts tend to do. They squeeze out whatever moisture they've got in them as they pass on by. And if it's cold Arctic air that is moving in, it will squeeze out snow showers. Models do very poor on this scenario. It usually is way more expansive than what the models indicate. So if it's already trying to show up building in, at least in central Indiana, and I like that, I think it's going to go probably all the way to Illinois. I think we're going to have a batch of light snow that's going to be right along the Arctic front that will just pass quickly to the south and east. It's not going to last very long. And because the wind is still going to be quite strong with this Arctic front, a lot of that is going to be a snow globe effect of just blowing around everywhere. So it's going to be really tough to get an accumulating snow, even though it's brief. It would be tough for it to accumulate because it will blow around all over the place, but at least want to be mindful of the idea that some spots could at least get a dusting out of that. I can't rule it out. And we'll monitor that. We got another full day of data to go through, but that's just an early snapshot of anything on the snow side this week. It's down to really this for the Arctic front. Otherwise, very cold as it moves on by. We get back into sunshine as we get into Thursday daytime, but cold. Now it looks like we're going to stay in the 20s for highs as we head into Thursday with full sun, mid-20s. This would get our attention. If it was January 16th, it would get our attention around here for Rock. Wow, highs in the mid-20s. We're talking about this being technically still autumn and in early December. So it does stand out as being unusual and may actually be a record. I believe the record for Louisville is, I think it's 28 degrees for the coldest daytime high that we've had for that date coming up on Thursday. It may either get matched or that record could fall. We'll see. As it moves on by, then we will stay chilly on Friday, but we'll slowly begin to pull out of that somewhat as we into the weekend. All right, here are the wind speeds. Again, this is just an estimate right now of the wind ramping up Wednesday morning, especially once we get into a partly cloudy type of sky, gust of 40, maybe a little higher. It's going to be awful close to wind advisory level. Weather Service likes it to be more of a sustained wind of about 25 to 30. With frequent gust of 40 is what they basically like to go by on a wind advisory criteria. I don't know if it'll get to that criteria or not. Either way, for us, we're going to be watching just in general for 40 or a little higher to get reached, and that could cause an alert day from us to come out, mainly just for impact of the strong cold winds. So yes, it's going to be in the 40s for daytime highs. It will not feel like it with that kind of a wind. The wind chill will stay in the 30s all day. So I say warm up, but you really won't notice it. The wind may relax briefly in the evening, but as that Arctic front moves in just beyond this range here, that's when the wind will go back up to around 40 as we head into early on Thursday. But that's the problem. We're going to be looking at another round of very strong winds early in the day on Thursday with a few snow showers around and wind chills that have these values showing up, which is single digits. And these keep trending colder, by the way, for Thursday morning. This could be the coldest we have been looking at for wind chills in the month of December for Louisville anyway in 16 years. We have not been to this level. It was 2008. A lot of the other records for this type of setup for other cities in Kentucky was December 2010. 2010 showing up again, but 2008 for Louisville. So this could be unusual setup for December. We tend to run to more mild Decembers, it seems like, as of late. So this, again, is a little bit unusual, and I think you guys know that. So brace for this. The kids, the bus stop, cover their ears. Hang on tight. It's going to be just a cold, blustery day outside. I got a feeling everyone's going to move really slow there on Thursday. All right, before I get into the longer term, any questions on any of that? Because I don't think it's going to be anything that is going to be significant on that and on the snow. I think it's just the bracing for the wind and the cold by far the bigger issues that will impact most of you watching. The snow only impacts some of you. All right. Hello, Adam. The 94 temperature. Well, the actual temperature in Louisville was the coldest was 22 below zero, but the wind chill got to about 37 below zero in Louisville for that day. The wind chill did. We are not to that level. Thank goodness. That is extreme. There's a reason why those records hold. I believe Shelbyville maybe have gotten to about 52 below zero and 94. It's not normal. It really isn't normal to see that kind of extremity. But to get down to near zero or so is not that unusual. But to get to it in December is what I'm trying to make, if that makes sense there. It's all about having this cold pattern, these cold attacks at the time of the year we're having it. That is what's standing out so much, not so much of what they are. So the ones that are not, that always tease me all the time about cold weather and snow, like, oh, it's a little snow. Oh, it's cold. It's supposed to be. It's, well, around here, no. Everything's been delayed more into January, in some cases March, before we get into really cold stuff. So this does stand out as being unusual for this early. Okay. All right. Some's coming out later, Ashley. We're hoping so. It's a slow process. The clouds just kind of rode away, and it'll take some time. And by the time it happens, we'll be run out of the clock on daylight. So yes, the trend to get to a sunnier sky is still on track, but it's going to be slow, and it will depend on where you are at. All right. Everyone looks good. All right. Here we go. Let's get into the weekend setup here. First off, we're going to stay warm as we head into your Saturday and Sunday warm. I use that term loosely, but 30s and 40s. Hey, we'll take it. Quiet overall. I don't see a lot of issues. So you got holiday parties you need to get to on Saturday. It's going to be chilly, seasonable, but no active weather systems around for Saturday. Sunday, the rain will come back into play, but that's going to be late Sunday night and early Monday. So I don't see that impacting the daytime issue on Sunday. It'll be Sunday night. And again, it's looking to be rain that we're talking about. But this is the one of two systems that are going to roll on out in the southern plains and try to phase into some type of energy that will be involving with the Arctic fronts that have been diving down from the north. This one, I think right now looks safe as being a rain event that moves in early on Monday. It's actually a very quick shot, moves in and moves out. This is the one that I have labeled as the setup to watch. Because of the system moving in Sunday, remember the spacing between these impulses, these lows, once it's a very short amount of distance, there's little recovery time on trying to bring back warmer air. So the next system tends to dig a little more south in that response. And this one does indeed want to do that. It allows for a little more of a digging setup, and that should allow for low pressure to develop somewhere along this boundary. But where and how far south? Well, that depends which model you want to look at. The Euro itself likes to mainly keep it strong enough to pull it in as a rain event, maybe backlash snow. The GFS is trying to trend a little more south with this, which would be more of a snow event. The Canadian, same story, a little more south, more of a snow event. So there's still some wiggle room on where this boundary is going to develop a storm system. So it's not locked in. And I highly caution you model watchers to take this as a face value, because it will not look like this again in the next run. It will keep changing and evolving until it can figure out the speed of the one on Sunday, until it can figure out how quickly it gets away and allows for this system then to slow down just a tad to be able to form a storm. That's step number one. But once it rolls out, where will the track be? So the track's all over the place. So we're going to go middle of the road and just keep it mainly at least a chance for showers, temperatures generally in the 40s after being in the 50s on Sunday. And then we'll see if we have to shift this more south or north. It's going to take a few days. It's going to take a few days to get that settled out. So I, as always, like to say this one needs more time in the oven. But even after it rolls by, we will then have to see if another one may try to develop. It may not look like it here, but another one may develop on the tail end of that system. Although typically when I see that signal, and it's shown up on several models, when they develop on the tail end of the front, they do tend to favor more of the East Coast, and only for the mountains, East Kentucky, get anything wintry out of that, and it leaves us alone. But we'll see. All right, so looking ahead, this is what the long-term Euro just came in for right around December 20th through about the 22nd, showing another round of cold air, a trough that develops in the nation's heartland, setting the stage up for, again, stormy weather that would form on the southern end of that. So 20th to the 22nd likely will be another storm system. And what's interesting is that core of the cold then slides east as we head toward Christmas Day, which would allow for a cold Christmas Day, maybe even a clipper that would roll in to give us some light snow. Wouldn't that be nice? But it may go down to the wire with that one. All right, I think we're going to have some warmer systems and active weather, but the 20th through about the 27th, that range, at least there's more support today for colder weather coming back into play. So once again, it's another negative against a warming trend, fighting against it. We'll see. When you look at the snowfall potential on this, it's the signal is there. Let me show you that. The signal is noisy, but it doesn't really tell me a whole lot. I mean, there's a few members that get really excited about December, and there's others that are not. Most of them do a little more excitement as you get into January. But I think it's kind of the model bias in general. So overall, I think once we get into around the 20th through the 27th, I think that's going to be the range we're going to watch. We could get some wintry weather, and wouldn't that be perfect for a lineup for the Christmas holiday week there? All right, we'll see. We'll see. What I'm saying is there's a chance. We'll leave it at that. Here's the 10-day, 33 today. Windy on Wednesday, and again, it's a very tight gradient between the two systems there, so really strong winds. And then we get into Thursday, that very cold day. Now, Thursday night, 16 into early Friday morning, but that will be 16 without strong winds. So Thursday morning, even though it's 19 degrees, will feel, again, like you saw, single digits. So Thursday morning will feel colder, but actual temperatures will be colder Friday morning, but you won't have as much wind, so it will not feel as cold, if that makes sense. The wind makes a big difference on those two numbers. There's the warming trend for Sunday and early next week, and then we'll just see how it plays out as we track that system for early next week. All right. So it's a messy setup, guys. It's not an easy one. There's a lot of wiggle room here and a lot of margin for error. So you got to keep checking back in. And sometimes I look at too much data and it can be overwhelming. So let me continue to analyze all this. I think we need to get through this wind and watch that light snow chance Thursday. Once we check that off the list, we'll move on to the next one. But in general, today, it's just going to be a cloudy and cold setup. You take care of each other, and I'll see you guys come up on the flip side.